Welcome again to the Spicy AI podcast, Control+Disrupt. I'm Mark Harrison.
I'm Joanna Miller, and in this series, we are diving into AI world with a special focus on credit and order to cash and the challenges that leaders face.
We're here to ask the spicy questions others avoid, cutting through the hype, challenging assumptions, and exposing where AI helps and where it hurts. So buckle up. This isn't just another AI podcast. It's bold and it's sharp and it comes with a Scoville rating. So what's on the menu today, Joanna?
Today, we are talking about data readiness.
Okay, that sounds intriguing. So what is the myth of data readiness then?
Well, all the companies are chasing the ideal data, while in fact, the status of clean data, especially in the large companies, enterprises with the complicated structure of ERP, multi-ERP environment, multi-system environment, is practically impossible. That's the data readiness myth. So we are chasing something that is very difficult or even impossible to achieve in the real world. And many times, while chasing this myth, we're delaying decisions about, for example, implementation of AI. So you probably noticed that there is a lot of articles before you implement AI, get your data ready.
Yeah, it's interesting we're having this conversation because what we're talking about here is nothing new, right? I mean, having a good quality database or master data, however you want to describe it, this should always have been the case, right? But
Yeah.
and I guess the what the latest sort of AI projects bring about and emphasize is that the opportunity to make errors is a million times faster than it was before. And what
Exactly.
we're talking about from a credit order to cash perspective really is minimizing the number of invoice disputes. Right? That's the bottom line of it, really. So nothing new here, nothing rocket science. Right, this is
Mhm.
common sense that should have been done decades ago in many companies, right? And they don't. So let's go on from that then. And as we're focusing on a credit order to cash perspective, do you agree with me that, particularly as we're primarily focused on shared services, but not exclusively, that the credit O2C team should be leading, really leading this project, talking about master data preparation?
You mean, I guess, the initiative to ensure the clean data,
Yeah. I
correct?
mean, my view has always been
Mhm.
that every single aspect that appears on an invoice, that the credit control department, as in the whole team, should always have an input as to the quality of the data in the first place that manifests itself on an invoice, then goes to a customer. Because the better quality the invoices are, the better chance we have of getting paid. Right? And also a huge opportunity for cost reduction if you're not spending hours and hours and employing a lot of people on invoice disputes, fixing invoices, you got a much quicker, slicker operation. It always baffles me how when I make this comment to the companies I work with or train with and so on, they say, "Oh no, master data is somebody else's area of responsibility." Well, how can that be? So it has credit control have to have an input in the quality of the data. And I think it's a great opportunity when business service leaders are talking about adding value to the business, getting the teams in shared services having a greater understanding of the end-to-end business. Well, this is what it really means, right? Is getting into the weeds, into the detail. What data have we got, right? Where does it start? Where does it come from? And what can we do to make sure that the majority of the information is correct when it actually turns into a sale to an invoice, right?
Mhm.
And I think this,
The invoice that will be paid, undisputed.
or not, yeah, paid undisputed, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
let's be honest, 99% of invoice errors are caused by internal failing, right? The only invoice error that is caused externally to administration is if the goods are damaged in transit or lost or stolen or something, some physical thing that happens to the goods. Otherwise, everything else is an admin issue and it's our problem, as in the selling company. So I think we need to
Yeah, yeah.
start with that. That's a very obvious fact. Most companies tend to overlook, or many companies overlook, because they're more worried about revenue recognition than asset quality, right? And I think the key thing that we're talking about here is AI projects speed up the ability to manipulate data, to export data, to work with data, which means that it will show in rapid time the weaknesses, right? And all the weaknesses come from the database, right? But this is nothing new. I stress this every time. This has been the case for decades, right?
Mhm.
It's nothing new. Just that we have another opportunity now to really revisit the source of our data, right? And technology has moved on. So let's explore then sort of when we're talking about data from a credit, let's just call it credit control, the whole O2C,
Mhm.
I2C, P2C area. What areas of data are we actually talking about?
Well, we are talking in general about the master data because, like every error in transactional data that appears, in fact, results from the error in master data. So either it is a customer data and errors during customer onboarding, or this is a pricing master data, it vendor master data.
Yeah,
Well, there is like all the master data, every error master data, so like a typo, duplication,
yeah,
missing data,
yes.
all that stuff is impacting later order generation, quote generation, invoice
Invoicing,
generation. And
invoicing.
after all, yes, and after all, we end up with the incorrect invoices. And when
Right.
collection approaches, that's already too late.
Absolutely. And then
We are talking also of credit master data.
yeah,
So this.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what the whole
Mhm,
point of every company, all data, pretty well at the end of the day, the whole
mhm,
point of all data, products, prices, yeah, et cetera, is at the end of the day is all about selling, and the sale manifests in an invoice, right? That's the
yes,
bottom line. Everything funnels into creating an invoices which represent the transaction, the sale. Always, without exception, the biggest cause of invoice errors or data errors is down to the pricing, right? That's always the biggest area, right? Almost without exception.
pricing, payment terms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
It's that communication.
incorrect. Incorrect company credentials. It can be, incorrect email to for the
Yeah.
invoices to be sent. Incorrect delivery,
Oh,
delivery.
absolutely. There are many areas,
Well,
and I think the
there is so many areas. Yeah,
right,
sure.
and my and again, I'm only repeating what I've been saying for decades. The Most of the areas, of course, between the gap between what the sales agree with the customer and then getting that information into the master data onto the ERP system, so that the next bit happens. The as you said, the payment terms, the prices, that kind of thing, are then all part of the invoice creation. And I think with what's different between sort of now and previous decades, shall we say, is that the technology can actually be trained to minimize the error rates. Yeah, and I think that's the reason why we're going to see now. We're already seeing it, and we're going to see more and more through the rest of the next 5 years or so, as this
Mhm.
particular era of technology really takes on, is that more and more companies are going to say the projects have failed, right? I mean, we already, what is it you wrote, and we agree that 60, 70, 80% of projects are deemed to fail. That's been reported through uh,
Mhm.
all these analytical companies for years, SSON, etc. They've been saying this for years that 70% of projects fail, right? They don't fail because of the technology. They fail because the people that are working with the technology don't really know what it is they're looking for to make sure it's right in the first place, or to challenge the service provider to say, I want this, 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 and this. Doing what you
Or
did
to fix
before.
the data, another thing. So,
Yeah,
mm,
absolutely. Going just saying, right, as we call it plug and pray and all the rest of it, just kind of doing what you've done before is not going to make it any better, right? You got to say, right,
mhm,
we've got this technology, we bought this, we're going to implement it. What is it we want to achieve? Where are we now? Right. And that's one of the critical things also is this is why I make a kind of a running joke in Callisto that we're banned from using the J word journey because every company says they're going on a journey. Now, the definition of a journey is that you start somewhere and you have a very definite idea where you're going, right? You go on a train, you start at this place and I'm going to this place, right? That's your journey. Very definite, very defined. In
mhm,
business world, most or many organizations go on a journey and they don't actually know the quality of the data that they're starting from, right? So what's your overdues? No, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20%. I'm not sure, right? Why is that? Nah, don't know. It's always been that way. So what would you deem to be success? What does success look like, right? Over what period of time? It's all very basic stuff.
mhm,
Nothing new. And that's why I say the ownership has to take place within the credit order to cash department. And the areas that you're talking about, if we go through those, right, let's go back to the pricing, right? Again, that's always the highest, the biggest reason why there are errors, data errors, it's because of the pricing. What do you think AI can do around that? Improve the quality, reduce the error rates.
yeah. So I would like to refer to a couple of things from your part. So regarding the ownership of the data quality. So we've been recently in last week we've been talking about the data mesh. So still the ownership of the data should belong to the data producer and the responsibility for this data. However, well, the data governance board should be cross-functional, and this should create cross-team cooperation. That's maybe a little bit idealistic, mythical, but that should be the practice. So, no single department, in my opinion, should own the data because there is always some missing picture. This is like the saying that two heads are better than one. That's why cross-functional ownership, cross-functional governance makes sense, while domain ownership for the data quality should stay where it is produced. So that's one of the opinions. And when it comes to again data readiness myth, so the challenge is that we have kind of the companies or cannot move because the data is not ready to implement AI. But well, actually, they forget that we can engage AI to clean our data. So that's the opportunity instead of well chasing the myth to fix the data with the AI help real time, or use AI in some aspects of master data creation. For example, scanning contracts or quotes for the pricing for the payment terms, etc., and executing
Yeah.
this data in ERP. This is one area. Another area, and there is plenty, maybe not plenty, I am exaggerating, but there is pretty a lot of companies that are specializing and in real-time data cleansing. So the most popular errors created by human, and it will probably never, even with the increased governance, We will never be able to prevent, let's say, human errors because they are in hurry, they are in a rush, they are distracted, and they want to do something quickly.
Yeah.
So they, or unintentionally or sometimes intentionally creating the error. So I'm sure you've seen like exclamation marks or XXX or codes in the customer master data 00000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
so so we are doing it
but
intentionally.
what the technology can do is to flag up exceptions, right? Like event
Yeah.
what's happened before.
So we can do because well, what we can do, we will not change human beings. So that's really really difficult. But what we can do, we can fix it. So the AI systems that are focused on the data quality, they are the best for deduplication. So many times we have duplicated companies, Mark Harrison, Harrison Mark, or with a different code, so they can match the records and real time do the deduplication or submit this for the human overview. Another thing like filling the missing data, it also happens real time. If the system spots, for example, the city code 0000, it is connected to the external bases and can fetch the code and fill the data. It also can see all the anomalies, nonsensical data we have many times in master
And
data. So
even on a more practical
definitely,
level. So sorry, Karen.
yeah, no. So those are the systems that we can really engage, especially the large enterprises that are processing the huge volume of data should definitely do that because we know from practice that making human that robotic and that perfect is impossible. We are imperfect.
And the and just, if we just keep around the sort of vendor master data, I see. I mean, there are simple things like parent-child relationships. So if ever a new company comes on board, excuse me, a new business comes on, the technology can be saying, "Is this part of a bigger group?" Right? And then straight away, because that's where a lot of invoice errors are caused, because you get a new
Mm-hmm.
division of an existing client, it's not tied to the mothership, the parent, if you like. So it
Mm-hmm.
goes down to default tariff. Straight away, you got a pricing error. The system, the technology can be running against that and saying, "Oh, we have this." So it
Yeah.
needs to be, and that's what I was saying about flagging up exceptions. We have this company, it's not been linked. Do you want me to link it?
Mhm.
Or maybe you can set it that it automatically links, if it's however
Yeah,
you
it can
want to
be. It
go.
can be connected with external database and verify if this company belongs to any group.
And I,
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a credit risk provider the other day. We're taking sort of technology to really to front to the pushing the boundaries, which is very exciting. Is that when a new client credit risk, the typical thing, they give you the credit rating and everything else that goes around that. But as part of their offering, they also connect to Google Maps, and you can actually
Mm-hmm.
see if the address is actually exists, right? So you can actually go and see. And this is, I mean, you can do that independently. You can do that anyway. This is part of the process flow. Here is the
And that's good. You have KYC tackled over there
and
already.
for and coming to governance and all the rest of it, and ESG, which is a huge part of everything we're doing today. It will reduce the fraud aspect as well, because you can say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this, at least we prove that this building exists. It's not just a bit of wasteland somewhere where our goods are delivered and somebody signs for
Yeah.
clears off and you never see them again, right? Which is a
Mm-hmm.
regular fraud these days. That's a regular thing, bogus delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where it all kind of knits into real time. And then other aspects of the data, areas that are often, scandalously overlooked is things like Dunning letter cycles. One, going back to the shared service center model, the idea of shared services is that you embark on standardization. So you have the
Mm-hmm.
same strategy across all countries, all business units. The fact is that company A is selling to company B. The fact that it's in Germany or France or Italy or Spain shouldn't really make a huge amount of difference. If your payment terms are 45 days in country A, then really you should be looking to have them at 45 days across countries B, C, D, E, and F as well, right? Yes, I understand there should be sometimes be variations. Getting this standardization can actually work in your favor as well, because then rather than having six small companies you sell to, you could have one key account, right? Which changes the relationship, the dynamic, the number of people working that account, collecting it, and so on. So there's many aspects to this data, right?
Yeah, that's exactly many aspects because then it like if you have one account, then okay, but you are talking about group in this case.
Either, yeah, yeah, but it's having this
Because
holistic view.
when you are talking about the one big company instead of six smaller, I am thinking capital concentration. so
Risk,
so
however, risk management,
yeah.
etc. Your company A is selling to company B. The fact they're in six different
Mhm.
countries doesn't make a difference. If company B goes bust, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's Germany, it's France. Company B goes bust, right? And the selling company
Yeah,
loses
true.
a lot. But the data readiness myth, going back to that, and you said it right at the beginning, is that it's
Mm.
never ever going to be 100% because it can't be. Every minute of every day it's
It
changing.
can be. Yeah, we are producing so many data and the errors happens. Even I'm not sure if you've seen those statistics that on the I was reading that in US like the average losses yearly because of the data errors are between 12 to 15 millions on average enterprise.
Oh yeah.
Loss on revenue. So this is huge, and well, we are all aware that our data is imperfect because also like the same survey says that only 67% of the companies doesn't trust their own data. So we are aware. We are
We're
about
looking ways to measure
aware
this,
of
ways
the
to
truth.
measure this. In Callisto, we've been saying for many years the 2.5% excellence rate, right? And when it comes to database quality, one of the ways that you can measure the success or the good quality of your data is by the
Mm,
number of credit notes raised. And what we say is that that should not exceed 2.5% by
mm,
quantity of the number of invoices generated. So, you raise,
Quantity, yes.
yeah, well, yeah, because
Exactly,
the value
exactly.
varies. But you raise 1,000 invoices,
Hmm.
no more than 25 of those invoices should be subject to a credit note to repair a price or,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So
But,
there's
but but look, I am thinking about one case when we are talking about this 12 to or 13 to 15 million revenue loss yearly. So how huge opportunity goes from cleaning the data, engaging the system. So this is immediate ROE, frankly speaking,
Absolutely.
because
I was about to say exactly the same thing. The ROI on technology implementation, you break out the silos, you stop the silos, you go right back upstream to the source data. You aim to have this 2.5%. In the manufacturing side of the business, they call it Six Sigma, right? It's the same thing, right? You're minimizing the number of errors. And the most important thing is we're seeing it every minute of every day, particularly as a small company, we're seeing companies are putting freezes on budgets, training budgets, travel budgets. They're laying off people, they're moving to other locations to reduce cost. The irony is the costs are right in front of them. You don't have to move anywhere. You just fix what.
exactly. They can utilize instead of sacrificing the quality of the services because of cutting resources
It's a false
or
economy.
other actions. They just fix the data and they have 15 million
Yeah, I mean,
annual.
you reduce your overdues and you reduce your disputes from by 25%, 50%. When I was doing my degree a few years ago, and this is one of the things I looked into, and there's research, the average price, the cost of every credit note, and this was a few years ago, was something like on average 25 euros. Right now,
Mhm.
that's probably increased by 50% since I did my degree. So let's say it's 40 euros. Every credit note costs 40 euros, right? In with all the various invisible costs plus people actually doing the research and raising the credit notes and all the rest of it. So if you say it's 40 euros every time, right, and
And
you
you have 30% of disputes, which is not that uncommon, and then you are processing couple thousand transactions. So
and
this can
there's the
be many.
ROI, and there's the ROI, and the so the database myth is it's never going to be right because the data changes every minute of every day. New companies come on board, new orders are being entered. That's good. That's how it should be. Cash allocation is constantly being updated, so it's changing all the time. But if
Yeah.
you aim for this 97.5% correct rate, you know that you're moving in the right direction, right? And I do, yes, and companies must not defer, procrastinate on embracing these technologies until they get their data 100% right, because it will never happen, right? But what you must do is,
It will never happen. So they
oh,
need to utilize the technology to fix the data. And this is like AI fixes the data,
yeah,
and at the same time, with the fixed data, creates the platform to other AI automation that will work correctly under the other conditions that the systems
absolutely.
rebalance,
But if
retrain, etc., all the stuff that we've been
But
talking about
if
before.
you aim to reduce the invoice errors you've got now, and every company can do that anyway, with or without technology, just by putting focus on the master data, right? You can, and that should, that's not rocket science. So I
Yeah,
think
but
what we're aiming at,
technology speeds that up.
yeah,
So
it speeds it
uh,
up. Yeah, it first of all, it will highlight the areas of error and concern in the minute
and
detail.
Mark, because the errors will happen. So even with the governance, you always have the errors. So there is no company who has zero errors. And the problem, like the problem, maybe not the problem, the challenge that with the manual controls, whatever, we spot the error already when it affected already our revenue probably.
Yeah.
But with the technology, we have the opportunity to fix it real time
Yeah.
or prevent it.
And
Yeah.
prevent it. That's the thing. You can have the flags, the that's what I was saying earlier about you can highlight variations from past transactions. Again, nothing new, like all the third parties today will tell you that your customer is now paying on the 5th and they used to pay you on the 2nd. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a warning sign, etc. Again, but it's knowing what to do with that variation, right? How to react, how to respond, what to do next.
I have to react. So there will be another controversy if to let people to decide because it may happen. Okay, I have no time, so I will override the alert. Another,
And this
but
is what we mean.
we.
This is what we mean by technology doing the boring bits, the grungy bits, and the people doing the value added. You set up the systems to tell you what it is you want it to tell you, and then the humans in the loop, they react and do whatever it is needs to be done, calling the customers, making the amendments on the database,
Mhm.
whatever it is, talking to the customer about, do you want a higher credit limit, a lower credit limit, or if it's a higher credit limit, talking to the customer, why do you want a higher credit limit? This is the value added, right? This is the real, and that leads into a whole bunch of other things, like you said earlier, know your customer and so on. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think from this discussion, it's been great, and we're really emphasizing that the technology can really help us to fix things that have been around for a long time. I would also say I know a lot of organizations are very happily procrastinating with AI, other third parties. No, because they're saying we'll do the S4 HANA project. 2028, we'll come back and we'll think about other technologies, right? That's the
No.
biggest mistake to make,
That's
right?
a big mistake they cannot
Big
even
mistake.
afford. So now market requires AI strategy. If you don't do it now, you will be very much behind
Yeah, yeah.
very shortly. So we need to go with the market flow.
S4 HANA and well, whether it's SAP or any other, if you're standardizing your ERP, that's not going to change your performance. If you've got 25% overdue, you're going to have 25% overdue, whether it's Oracle or SAP or Sage or whoever your ERP is, it's that ain't gonna change, right?
That's true. That's
It's it's
that's
not a
actually ERP agnostic.
Yeah, the ERPs record the data. They're just a box of numbers. They don't really change anything. They just capture the information. It's the AI and all these, amazing third party suppliers that are out there in the credit O2C world, many of which work with us in Callisto. Like you can have 25 legacy systems today, right? The technologies we have today can all be mapped up into a standard platform, agnostic, as you said. You can map it all up there. That's where you get your standardization. What goes on in the ERPs can carry on. Your data entry can carry on. You just map it all up, route it all up into a standard cloud platform, and then you can get your outputs and you can really start to work on the enhancements that the technology has today. Don't wait for the ERP standardization. Because by the time in 3 years' time you've done that, your ERP is probably going to be out of date and the next edition is ready, right? So, it's
Yes, yes, that's the paradox of ERP standardization. Mark, I think we're gonna be cut by the Zoom very
yeah, and
shortly,
we've
so
exhausted the
we need to wrap
conversation.
up.
Yeah, so we will. So, thank you very much. Great conversation. What have we got next time?
I think we have sustainability.
Okay, sustainability it is then. Until then, Control, Alt, Disrupt, and keep your AI spicy. Catch you next time. Cheers. Bye bye.